this pedal right here is probably why you clicked on the video, whether it's you looking for a new delay pedal or just want to kind of get out of the box, or maybe you fell for the title, which I believe is true, that this is the big box delay killer right here. But maybe you stumbled across my page and you don't really know who I am. And I just want to say my name is Jacob Dickinson. So I am a worship pastor at a church called Bethlehem Church. And I love just making electric guitar content. I kind of look at electric guitar and making music as a hobby. But first and foremost, I'm just a worshiper of the Lord, the one true God, Jesus. And so at the heart of it, if I'm not praising Him, there's really no point to this. And so as you are watching this video, maybe you're a follower of Jesus, maybe you're not. But if you are, if you find this, you volunteer at your church, maybe you get paid to play at your church, just make sure that when you are looking and seeking after new pedals and new tones, and we all do it, seek after the tones and try to get the best sounds for your rig, that you're first and foremost focusing on Jesus Christ. The Lord will bless that. But I already filmed the demo, but I didn't really do a good intro that I liked. So here we are. This is the Rewind by Alexander pedals. And so as you can see, my board is almost completely blacked out. So I reached out to them and asked them if they could make me a custom black one, and they did. So that's what I'm going to be reviewing today. I'm going to be playing my guitar. As you'll see, this is past Jacob. Take it away. So for this demo, I'm going to be using my Squire offset Telecaster. I've said this in my other videos. I'm always for getting a cheap guitar, modding it yourself. So these are custom pickups. This is a bridge. I put this Bigsby in myself. Custom wiring, new pick guard. So that's the guitar I'm using. I'm using the ACS1 as my amp. With the version 2 update, I think it made a world's load of difference in the feel and in the sound, especially with the tone factor IRs. And then I also am playing with the, as my reverb, the Jet Pedals Revelation V2. I've had this reverb and it's just the best. So look back at some other videos and how I set that up. So before we jump into the demo, let me just give a little intro to what this pedal is. So maybe you haven't heard of Alexander pedals, but this is part of their Leap series. And it is crazy the amount of functions that they can slam into this tiny little form factor. So it has a little LCD screen, and it has 10 different algorithms. I'll walk through that later. There's timestamps below. So if you want to just jump to an algorithm, I'll play through it a little bit. But it has presets. You can do MIDI. You can do external controls. This is almost like a multi-jack, so you can use like a 3-button, TRS little multi-jack to preset up and down. You can use full MIDI if you want to with MIDI clock, which is how I use it. But even if you aren't using MIDI, you can access the presets just by holding down the bypass button to go to the next one, or holding down both of them to go back down a preset. And with the global settings, you can make it to where there's only 3 presets or 8 presets, or however many presets you want to be accessible at your feet. On top of that, there's a ramp feature, which I'll talk about later, that pretty much gives you 2 completely different settings within one preset. This thing is just crammed full of features, but it's very usable. It's very easy. Maybe you're someone that's like, I don't really like menu diving. This is the pedal for you. Because let me tell you, these knobs, at first I was like, it's kind of a con to have these knobs like this. These are not encoder knobs. They don't go all the way around. As you can probably see here, they stop at 0 and then they go all the way to 100 and stop. And so wherever you kind of set that knob, it's very familiar to an analog pedal. So like if you're like, oh, I like my mix at, maybe 11 o'clock. You can set it at 11 o'clock and it'll respond exactly like that. So it's very usable, very familiar, but with tons of features. And so let's dive in to my favorite, we're gonna start off on this one, my favorite algorithm on here, and that is the tape algorithm. So very, very, very simple. Something I can still play rhythm to, but it doesn't get in the way. This seems daunting with a screen and that it has menus, but there's really just 4 knobs. So the menu goes like this. So you press enter, and now you have your time up here, your mix, and your repeats. Super easy. And then you press it again, go to the next page. You got your wow and flutter, which can get pretty crazy. Let's turn that all the way up. So as you can see, it really just adds that warbliness, and then there's also flutter. Let's bring the wow all the way down just so you can hear the flutter. It's almost like tape shutter, like it just kind of starts shuddering. So both of those maxed. Gets really, really crazy, really fast, but it honestly is very musical still, and so I kind of like it around here, around 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock, and then you have age. So all the way down is new tape. So all the repeats are pretty clear, and then you have age all the way maxed out. So this is really old. So your repeats really die down really quickly. And you lose a lot of those lows pretty quickly. I mean, even if let's max out these repeats maxed out. You can just hear them disappear. But if I have a new tape, a cool thing about this algorithm, I know we're diving in deep real here, but a cool thing about this, so if I bring the age all the way down, I know we're diving in pretty deep, but if I max out the repeats with a new tape, it'll repeat that almost indefinitely, but as a real tape machine would go around and keep repeating that as it slowly degrades and gets a little bit more warbly. But the cool thing about that is I can just But if you had to hit a bad note like I did just there, it just goes on forever. But that's a cool little thing that you can do. The cool thing about this pedal is if I hold this tap foot switch down, it will ramp to completely different settings, whatever you set it to. And so here I have it ramping to max repeats, and that will sound like this. So my normal quarter note delay. And I'm back. So some super cool things that you can do just with that ramp feature. Every preset can really have its whole separate preset within it. And you can just, how you do it is you just hold the ramp button until it ramps up to it. You change your settings, and it saves that. It also does really awesome stuff like this third page is this is the same on every algorithm. You have your ramp speed, how quickly you want it to ramp between those two things. Your output level of the delay. So like if you're doing the oscillating things, you can actually turn that down. And then you also have your division, time division. So if you're sending it MIDI clock, or if you're tapping it in, you can make it a quarter note, a dotted eighth, an eighth, a triplet, or you can say no click. So you can have it ignore the MIDI clock that you're sitting at. And so I can go time all the way quickest, my mix full wet, and the repeats all the way down. And now this acts as a modulation pedal with the wow and flutter on my guitar, like this. Max these out. Let's give it really old age. It's just all over the place. New age. I've gained some volume back. And so now it's just a modulation. And that works with all of the algorithms here, which is really, really cool. Last thing that I forgot to mention with this algorithm is it has tape heads. So this is tape head A. So what we've been using, tape head B, tape head A and B, tape head C, A and C. So you can get some cool pattern stuff. So really cool pattern stuff that you can do, or all of them. I know that was a deep dive, but that's just the tape algorithm. Let's move on to the analog setting. I know it says tape here. I'm just going to stay on that same. I just named that preset tape, but we're going to be, as you can see right here in the tiny words, analog. We're going to be in that analog algorithm. Here you have tone, you have rate and depth for your modulation, and then you also have different waves for the modulation there. So let's just do it with the modulation all the way off. Make sure that's all the way off, and here is the analog. So diving into this one, this is when you're going to want to get your headphones out, because as you add modulation, as you add depth to this, the wider the stereo image gets, which is really, really cool. So let's just keep it on sine wave because that's what's normal. Let's turn up that rate just a tiny bit and the depth right about 12 o'clock. And so with that mixed with your tone, I mean, you can go, let's go. So let's go max depth. So it can get pretty wild. And you can slow that rate down. Or you can get it really seasick. You know, it gets real crazy out of hand real quick. But even just right here is a nice. And as you can already tell compared to the tape, it just has a different character to it. And a lot of that, the tone, let's turn the tone all the way up, which this means there's not really much loss. Pretty bright repeats, and then dark. And so I'm gonna just set that right in the middle. And then with this one, the repeats act different from the tape algorithm. These start to oscillate on each other. So like, so it starts to get real crazy. So like if you're, so as you can see, you can do that crazy thing. You can also do the time glitch thing. So really, really, really cool. That's pretty much everything to the analog algorithm. But as always, like you can set this to no click, bring the time all the way to minimum, max out the mix, bring the repeats to 0, and now you have a modulation pedal, a vibrato pedal. And it's super wide because it's in stereo. Super, super cool. Endless possibilities with just that algorithm. Let's move on to the next one, which is digital. Here is the digital delay. It is what it says it is. So very true to tone repeats. So this algorithm has bits that you can add to it. It does a bit crushing thing with the repeats. Sound like this. So if you're into that kind of thing, I'm personally not, so I just leave that knob down. But just like the analog algorithm, you turn up this depth and rate and it adds stereo width. And a little bit of modulation. You have all, again, feel free to play around with all the different waveforms. I like sine, but you got up, down, random, fixed, square, and sine. You can do those dotted eighth tones, which is what I like to use a dotted eighth delay for. Let's get some dirt on there real quick. So. Nothing too fancy. As you can tell, I'm a rhythm player. But let's move on to the next algorithm. That is pitch. This one gets interesting. So you have mode, you have pre, post, ARP down, ARP up, and ARP up and down. And so the pre is one that, so you can set this tune to the repeats thing. You can go down all the way up to down to 12 and all the way up to 12. But a very usable one is this detune, and you can choose the pitch mix as well. So this can get into very wild, crazy territory. So this is detuned down a little bit. And then you can fine tune that. Let's go all the way flat more. So it's pitched, it's detuned just a little bit, but it's not modulating like a chorus would. It's just staying there. You got unison, but just tuned down a little bit. Let's tune it up a little. So you have that fine adjustment there, but you can do crazy things like +4. And pre keeps jumping higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. If you're in post, it stays the same. So that could be cool for like a, let's turn the mix down. Let's go up 12 and let's blend in that mix. Oh, I'm still in dotted eighth. Hold on, let's send this to quarter. So just a little bit of high-end sparkle if that's your thing, or you can go down 12. So it's kind of like a half of a pog on just your repeats. So crazy things. But while I was playing around with this algorithm, I did the full wet thing where you go here, you turn off the click, you set it all the way to the fastest time that you have, turn your repeats. I turned them all the way up for this. And I went to the ARP up, turned the rate around noon, and I found pattern 4 with the pitch mix all the way up. And I found this. So crazy sounding stuff like that doesn't even sound like a guitar anymore. But you can do all sorts of things. Let's turn this. It's got different patterns, so you got like pattern 2, pattern 3. Let's go ARP up and down. I like pattern 4 is my favorite. I've also found, I just found out actually, turn your tone down for this one, and it's a lot less harsh. And you can obviously change the rate of that, so super fast or super slow. Don't know what the implications for that, when I would ever use it, but it's super awesome. Let's move on to the next algorithm here. This next algorithm is called dual. Yes, it is a dual delay. So this one has a little bit of setting up to do. I set it up here on the third page as a dotted eighth, because who doesn't like a dotted eighth dual delay? And so on your first page, you have time 1, mix 1, and repeats 1. And on your second page, you have time 2, mix 2, and repeats 2. And I have this one set all the way to lock. That way it stays locked in with that first delay. And so you have 3 different options. You have true mono, stereo, and ping pong. So let's go ahead and try this mono first. So your classic, what you've heard, if you've heard a dual delay, that's what this sounds like. So you can really mix and match how you want it to sound. Same with the mix. But there's that. This is the stereo. And let's go all the way to ping pong. What this mode does is it sums it to mono, like the mono mode, and then just ping pongs it back and forth. So super cool, usable for those rhythmic things. Let's go ahead and go to the next algorithm. So here is our diffuse algorithm. So I've set my time all the way to the fastest it can go, and my repeats are about at noon. Let me just turn off my reverb. So this is without it. Super dry. Turn it back on. So almost spring-like. It's just a ton of repeats. And on this second page, you have bits, because it's pretty much a digital delay. So you can get those bits, but you can turn them all the way off. You have your softening. So if we turn that off, it's just a slapback delay going over and over and over again. And if we turn it up, it diffuses them. And so you can turn down your lows or highs. That's only highs. Let's turn down the lows, or turn down the highs. So changing up that. I already have a reverb, and this is cool for different scenarios. I'd probably use it as a slapback. That's probably what I'd use that algorithm for. Let's move on to the next one. This is reverse. You can't have a pedal called rewind and not have reverse in it. And so here on the second page, you have bits, because it's pretty much just a digital delay reversed. You also have direction. So the cool thing about this, you can go all the way this way. It's only reverse delays. And I have it set to the slowest time just to show. So like. Or you can mix in some forward direction delays. So this is 50-50. So if you aren't fully bought into a reverse delay, you can kind of just have your reverses mixed in there. And then this is a click control. So with reverse delays, you always get this harshness. Those clicks when that reverse starts, you can turn it all the way down or all the way up. and it kind of softens them up a little bit. And so some really cool textural things that you can do there, but that's pretty much it for that. Let's move on to the next algorithm. There's a lot in here. Dynamic. So dynamic delay has different modes. It's got swell, bloom, gate, and ducking. So you have your swell, which, let's start on that one, which you can set your attack and release, and when this light is off, that means the first notes that you play will swell in. So and you can set your attack and release. Let's make this attack slower and release super quick. And you have to wait for this light to turn off, or else it'll sound like this. But it's really good for like those picking, you pick all the strings. So it's like an auto swell, which is very, very useful. You also have your bloom. So if you just play one note, that it doesn't have time for the delay trails to come in. But if I go, gate is pretty much the opposite. I'm going to turn off the reverb for this one. And you have this rise control. The release, let's turn that all the way down and I'll show how this works. So the delay trails will go on while I'm playing and then stop as soon as I stop. So So, not sure when you would use that, but super cool. And then you have ducking. So you can set the intensity of that, but the ducking, when you are playing, the repeats get lower, and when you are not playing, it's the opposite of the gate. So when that light is off, the repeats are really low, and then as soon as I stop. So could be really useful for like rhythm stuff if you wanted it to just kind of trail off after you stop playing. So super cool. And then let's move on to the next algorithm, the filter delay. Here on the second page, you have this thing called Reso, which pretty much at lowest doesn't do any filtering. And then at the highest, it goes to the max, almost like a Q on a EQ. Does that really big sweep. And as always, you can change the rate, which can get real crazy real quick. So let's turn this down, and then the depth is how deep, kind of what frequencies that you end up hitting. So both of these maxed out gets really, really wild. But there's lots of usable sounds in here. If you turn this down a little bit, and you turn this just to the low frequencies. Turn the rate down. It's almost like a phaser parallel to your signal. So it can be very, very cool. So, but you have sine, square, envelope down, envelope up, random, and you also have fixed. So this could be cool if you want to almost do like a high cut on your tone. So if you turn this all the way down, like, so all the repeats are there. And if we go all the way here and do the little full wet trick with 0 repeats, it's almost like a... That hurts my ears. You can get almost telephone effects. Or even if you're like reamping or something like that, you do some manual, you know, moving like that. But random is cool because, let's turn this right up. All sorts of crazy things. Let's go ahead and go to the very last algorithm, which is lo-fi. Let's turn these repeats back up and the mix back to a normal sounding. So this lo-fi setting has dirt. So it has its own built-in like rat on the repeats, which is really, really cool. And as always, you have your rate and depth for some modulation. Let's keep those all the way down while we look at this rat. So these are clean repeats with the dirt all the way off. So they kind of trail off, they get a little bit degraded. And let's turn up the dirt to half. Let me give you just a really clean signal so you can see what. So this is without. As you can tell, my guitar is very clean. So here is with the delay, with the dirt at half. Let's max out that dirt. So let me turn on back on my overdrives. So some really, really crazy things that you can do. Again, it's almost like parallel distortion, but you can also do what we've been doing this whole time, full wet, no repeats, dirt all the way up, tone all the way up. It doesn't sound bad for a distortion. So some super cool sounds that you can get out of this delay. That's really it. I know this is a long one, but it's just a really cool pedal. I think it's underrated. I think the whole brand as itself, Alexander, is just very underrated. Alexander did not send this to me for free. I went out and bought this at full price. And so, you know, I'm just promoting them for free pretty much because I think it's a great product. But there are some affiliate links, not for this pedal, but from the rest of my gear. A lot of it, if you click one of those, it just kind of helps out my channel, you know, encourage me to do more stuff like this. And so that would really help a lot if you clicked one of those. Maybe check it out. Maybe you saw something that you really liked. Feel free to ask me a question in the comments. But I hope you guys have a blessed day. Also, feel free to put some prayer requests in the comments. I'd love to pray for you guys. But hope you have a blessed day wherever you are, wherever you're watching this, whether it's day or night. I'll be praying for y'all and see y'all next time.